This is a Dubai Eye 103.8 podcast.
Homes live here.
Sponsored by Bayut. Find real and authentic properties using TrueCheck. Download the app or visit Bayut.com.
Yeah, time for us to focus on all things property, all things real estate. Big thanks to Bayut and Dubizzle for making this one happen. And a huge thanks to the team at Network Real Estate. The CEO of Network Real Estate is Mark Richards. He's been kind enough to join us on a Monday morning. Morning, Mark.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
We are good, but we are trying to get a take on what's happening in the property markets at the moment. Want to focus with you on all things villas. It is the great sort of bellwether, isn't it, of the real estate market here. If people are in a villa, they're probably looking for a bigger villa, or they're looking for alternatives for those in apartments. They're always aspiring to be in a villa, etc. When it comes to supply and demand, how is Dubai's villa market evolving at the moment? What's your sort of take on where we're at?
I think it's interesting at the moment. We're obviously seeing, incredible demand, and I think a lot of that is coming from, what you've said there. It's people wanting to be in Dubai a little bit longer. It's people growing and evolving in Dubai. And it's where people come, they have a family, exactly what you've said. It's going into a bigger property, looking for that next move. And ultimately, people wanting to, put roots down and stay here for longer periods of time. And that ultimately is putting pressure on the supply that's coming back into the market in the secondary space. So we're seeing people choosing to do renovations and stay and extend properties and things we see in the European markets. But ultimately, people are staying in their properties longer, and we are light on supply that's around at the moment.
So that's a thing, because we've been chatting about it for a while. This idea of the forever home, where it used to be you got it for a couple of years, spin it, etc. But now people are looking for forever homes. Yeah,
I think it's people like to have a bolt hole. They like to have somewhere that they can feel like they've got security. Ultimately, people are aware that, especially as the prices grow, as the population grow here, that they want to secure something now and make sure that they have got that option. It doesn't mean people don't want to look into the future. I think inherently by nature we're always looking for the next step, the bigger thing, the villa with the pool. But yeah, absolutely, people are looking for that property, and I think some people are challenged by it as well. I think they're coming into Dubai potentially from outside of the UAE, moving over to Dubai and hoping to replicate what they had at home really quickly, and finding that more challenging than they probably originally anticipated. But absolutely, people are looking to place money here to be in a position where they've got a home that they can see themselves in for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
In terms of the impact on the market as well, when you've got that demand from end users for forever homes or longer term family homes, etc., as opposed to the age old sort of investment model here as well, buy property, see it mature, etc., is that having an impact on the villa segment at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. If people don't move out of properties, it means that the supply is not coming back. And we are seeing that. We're not only seeing that in terms of just the property market, we're seeing that across the whole in Dubai. People taking golden visas. That wasn't an opportunity before. People setting up companies. We recently did an event in Manchester, and the conversations that we had with company formation, with people looking to be placed, set up and be efficient over here as well, is just driving all that demand, incredibly well. And people now can give themselves that 10-year window without having to be attached to an employer or a specific job. That's giving people more confidence to, put roots down for longer periods of time here.
Let's talk money if we can. Sales prices, as we know, continue to rise. Is it still the age-old communities, the traditional communities, where we're seeing the biggest rises?
It's a mixed bag at the moment, to be honest. I think we are now seeing a maturing market, and what we're seeing is areas that quite often people miss. So we've seen really high performance over the last 12 months in places like Al Fajan. We have seen really high performance in some of the age-old communities like Arabian Ranches 1. Arabian Ranches 1 over the last 12 months has been up by more than 23%, but Al Fajan has actually been up as a whole by over 30%. So we're seeing a real mix. Now, I think what I normally find is that people miss opportunities and people gather towards certain communities when other people are talking about them, and then they actually start to miss where there might be another window to buy. I don't want to say undervalued, but certainly undervalued against other communities nearby.
Off plan versus ready to move in
Yes.
turnkey at the moment. I mean, what's it looking like at present in terms of, again, what's coming online?
Yeah. So we've got some communities like Damac Lagoons, which are starting to be in this middle of what we would call an off-plan resale market. So they've all been sold by the developer. The first phases are starting now to hand over directly, which is a great location, very near places like Talal Garth, Damac Hills, which are already established. So we're seeing a nice, gentle movement of supply. But the reality is most of the developers are finding it difficult to get completion as fast as they would like, as fast as we would like it to hit the market in real terms. And the reason we want that is because once the properties hand over, then they're open for the mortgage market, which is the end user market. And that's what really drives that sort of solid demand in the end, rather than the sort of more speculative investor market.
Advice to landlords out there at the moment, or those in villas as well. I mean, it's interesting. We've had a couple of experts in recently saying, you leave villas empty at your peril because, that can sort of create a few question marks for people moving forward. In terms of what makes villas desirable these days, we're seeing a lot of renovations on older properties now as well. Is that something that landlords need to be conscious of?
100%. I think if you're looking at a community like Emirates Living and leaving something standard that was built more than 15 years ago, the end user tenant that is going to move into that is not going to accept a kitchen that was built, whatever standard many years ago. They are wanting something more modern, and that's also coming from, if we look at Emirates Living with communities like Al Fajan, you've got really modern contemporary properties that are handing over that are only a few minutes away, and we're seeing quite a big disparity now between something that has had sensible upgrades. I'm not talking about just wrapping a kitchen. I'm talking about, actually making the property a really habitable home, and people are looking for those modern upgrades. They're looking for even a bit of technology, maybe a swimming pool. People are looking for that. If you want to get the premiums and long-staying tenants, then you're going to want to do that.
So we've seen PropTech and the investments there. Are people looking for smarter homes these days as well?
Absolutely. I think there's a mix. I think there's a minimum standard of what people are looking for, but I think things like Nest systems, things like that don't break the bank, I think they definitely have a big upside as a return on investment if you were to add those modcons in there.
Let's wrap up with that in return on investment. The age-old brunch question, apartment versus villa. When it comes to sort of investments moving forward, is there much between the two or not?
I think you have to break it down a lot more detailed than that. I think the opportunity specifically, and I think a lot of people ask that age-old question, what's the best return? So many answers to that question. A lot of it is how long do you want to be in the market? What's your end game? Do you want to put it on the rental market? Do you want a relatively quick flip? And I think if you just break it down now, we see the performance in capital growth of somewhere like JVC over the last 12 months that has rivaled and beat many of the major villa communities. I don't think you should overthink it. If you're overseas, an apartment is obviously a much easier property to manage and operate. But I think both segments of the market have very strong opportunities.
Mark, really appreciate your advice. Thanks so much indeed for coming in on a Monday morning. Mark's the CEO of Network Real Estate, joining us live on the Business Breakfast.
Thank you, guys.